My name is Samantha, and I'm 34 years old. I was driving home from another 12-hour workday when my phone lit up with Dad's name. His voice was cold, nothing like the father who taught me to ride a bike. We all agreed you're not welcome at Christmas this year. Those words hit me like a physical blow. I had to pull over my hands, shaking so badly I couldn't grip the steering wheel. 20 years of being the family backbone, and this was my reward. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you're listening from today. If family drama hits close to home, please subscribe for more stories like mine. Growing up as the eldest of 4 children, I learned early that responsibility wasn't just expected, it was demanded. My parents' traditional Midwestern folks had clear expectations for their firstborn. Dad worked at the steel plant for 30 years. Mum stayed home and they believed in old-fashioned family values, where the eldest paved the way for everyone else. My brother Jake, now 32, was the golden child who could do no wrong. Star quarterback in high school, everyone expected him to go pro. When he blew out his knee senior year, he never quite recovered. Not just physically, but mentally. He'd been unemployed for 3 years now, living in our parents' basement, spending his days playing video games and his nights drinking beer with his high school buddies who never left town either. Then there's Amy, 29, my first sister. She got pregnant at 19, married the guy, divorced him 2 years later when she caught him with her best friend. Now she's raising 2 kids alone. Little Sophia, who's 8, and Mason, who's 6. Amy works part-time at a grocery store, always complaining about how hard single motherhood is, which I understand. But she also refuses to pursue child support from her ex, because she doesn't want the drama. Tyler, the baby at 26, dropped out of college after 1 semester. He said traditional education was killing his creative spirit. For the past 5 years, he's been finding himself, which apparently involves sleeping until noon, posting philosophy quotes on Instagram, and starting various business ventures that never last more than 2 months. His latest idea was becoming a cryptocurrency day trader with no capital to invest. My role in this family dynamic started when I was 16. I got my first job at a local diner, working nights and weekends. While my classmates went to parties and football games, I was serving coffee and saving tips. Not for college or a car for myself, but because Jake needed new football equipment and Amy wanted to go to homecoming. My parents said family helps family, and as the responsible one, I should set an example. When I turned 18, I started community college while working full-time. I'd wake up at 5 in the morning, work the breakfast shift at the diner, go to classes, then head to my second job at a call center until midnight. Every paycheck was divided the same way. 1/3 for my expenses, 1/3 for savings that usually got raided for family emergencies, and 1/3 went directly to helping my siblings. I paid for Tyler's first year of college, believing I was investing in his future. $8,000 from my savings money I'd scraped together over 2 years. When he dropped out, he didn't even apologize. He just said college wasn't for everyone, and that I should understand his need to forge his own path. That $8,000 could have been my down payment on a small condo. When Jake lost his 3rd job in a row, I bought him a used Honda Civic for $4,000 so he could get to interviews. He promised to pay me back once he got steady work. That was 3 years ago. The car now sits in my parents' driveway with 2 flat tires and a dead battery because he can't afford maintenance. He still asks me for gas money whenever he actually does have an interview, which happens maybe once every 3 months. Amy's situation tugged at my heartstrings the most. Those kids didn't ask to be born into chaos. When she called crying that she couldn't afford daycare and might lose her job, I stepped in. $800 a month every month for the past 2 years. That's $19,200 I've given her, not counting birthday presents, Christmas gifts, back-to-school shopping and emergency medical bills when Mason broke his arm last summer. My parents' house was another story. They refinanced twice to help Jake with his medical bills after the knee injury and to bail Tyler out when he got arrested for a DUI. Their mortgage payment ballooned to $1,800 a month, more than Dad's pension could cover. So I took that on too, plus their utilities, which ran about $350 monthly between electricity, water and internet. They needed the premium internet package, of course, for Jake's gaming and Tyler's cryptocurrency research. All told, I was hedging $3,200 a month to keep my family afloat. That's $38,400 a year. In the 5 years I'd been doing this, I'd given them $192,000. That's not counting the smaller amounts for emergencies, like when Dad's truck needed a new transmission or when Mum wanted to visit her sister in Florida. The personal cost went beyond money. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment in a decent but not great neighborhood. My furniture was all second-hand. My car was 12 years old with 200,000 miles on it, and my wardrobe consisted of work clothes and pajamas. I hadn't been on a vacation in 5 years, unless you count driving to my parents' house for holidays as a vacation. My relationship with Marcus, the only man who ever really understood me, fell apart because of my family obligations. We'd been together 5 years talking about marriage and kids. He had a job offer in California, a life-changing opportunity with a tech company. They wanted me to come too, even helped me line up interviews. But how could I leave? Who would pay Amy's daycare? Who would keep the lights on at my parents' house? Marcus waited 6 months for me to decide. When I chose to stay, he left anyway. His last words were that he loved me, but couldn't watch me drown myself to keep others afloat. I tried dating again after Marcus. But how do you explain to someone new that you can't go to that nice restaurant because you need to save money for your brother's car insurance? How do you tell them you can't take that weekend trip because your sister needs emergency babysitting? After a while, I stopped trying. It was easier to be alone than to explain why my family came first, always first, even when they never put me anywhere on their priority list. The isolation wasn't just romantic. Friends stopped inviting me out because I always said no. Co-workers stopped asking about my weekend plans because the answer was always the same: helping family. I became a ghost in my own life, existing only to serve others' needs. My therapist, who I could only afford to see once a month, called it codependency. I called it duty. The cracks in our family foundation started showing at Thanksgiving. I'd spent 3 days preparing shopping for ingredients, planning the menu to accommodate everyone's preferences. Jake didn't eat vegetables. Amy was temporarily gluten-free. Tyler had decided he was pescatarian that week, and Mum wanted everything exactly like Grandma used to make it. The grocery bill came to $600, which seemed insane for one meal, but I wanted everything perfect. I arrived at my parents' house at 6 in the morning to start cooking. The turkey needed to go in early, a 22-pound bird that cost $60. I made stuffing from scratch using Grandma's recipe mashed potatoes with real cream and butter green bean casserole, with fresh beans not frozen, and sweet potato pie with marshmallows that I torched individually for that perfect golden brown. Jake was supposed to arrive at 2. He showed up at 5, just as I was pulling the turkey out to rest. He reeked of bourbon and could barely walk straight. His contribution to the meal was a bag of store-bought rolls that he grabbed from the gas station on the way over. He slumped on the couch, turned on the football game, and passed out before dinner was served. Amy arrived on time, but immediately handed me Mason, who had a suspicious rash she hadn't bothered to check out. Sophia was in full meltdown mode because Amy had promised her she could make cookies with Aunt Sam, but there was no time now. While I tried to juggle a crying child and finish cooking, Amy sat at the kitchen table scrolling through her phone, occasionally laughing at TikTok videos. When I asked her to mash the potatoes, she said her wrist hurt from work. Tyler brought his latest girlfriend, a 20-year-old named Destiny, who worked at a crystal shop and believed she was an indigo child. She spent the entire time explaining how the negative energy in the house was affecting her chakras. When I served the turkey, she announced loudly that she could feel the bird's pain and suffering. Tyler hadn't mentioned she was vegetarian. I scrambled to make her a salad, but she complained the lettuce wasn't organic. Mum spent the meal telling stories about how helpful Jake was as a child, always offering to carry groceries. She praised Amy for being such a devoted mother, managing everything alone. She commended Tyler for his free spirit and creative soul. When she finally mentioned me, it was to say I should learn from Amy how to be more relaxed and stop being so uptight about everything. Dad's contribution to the conversation was asking when I was going to get married and give them grandchildren from a stable household. When I reminded him I was single because I'd chosen to stay local to help the family instead of moving to California with Marcus, he said Marcus was selfish for asking me to abandon my responsibilities. The irony was completely lost on him. After dinner, I spent 3 hours cleaning while everyone else watched football or napped. Amy's kids had destroyed the living room, grinding goldfish crackers into the carpet and spilling juice on Mum's white sofa. When I asked Amy to help clean up her children's mess, she said she was too tired from working that week. She worked 20 hours. I'd worked 60. As I loaded the dishwasher for the 3rd time, Jake stumbled into the kitchen looking for leftovers. He grabbed the drumstick I'd saved for my lunch tomorrow and ate it standing over the sink, dropping grease on the floor I'd just mopped. When he finished, he patted my shoulder and said I was the best sister ever, then asked if I could spot him $300 for his phone bill that was about to be shut off. Dad's birthday the following month was another exercise in frustration. I organized everything, sent out invitations to extended family, ordered a cake from his favorite bakery, and decorated the house with photos from his younger days at the steel plant. The party cost me $1,200 between food, decorations, and his gift. I'd saved for months to buy him a Hamilton watch, the one he'd admired at the mall last Christmas. $500 for a timepiece that reminded me of him. Reliable, classic, enduring. I had it engraved with his initials and the date. When he opened it, he glanced at it briefly, set it aside, still in the box, and gushed over Jake's gift, a $20 bottle of whiskey from the corner store. Jake had forgotten it was Dad's birthday until I texted him that morning. He'd borrowed another $300 from me the week before for what he called a job opportunity that turned out to be a pyramid scheme selling energy drinks. He used 20 of those dollars to buy the whiskey and pocketed the rest. Yet Dad held that bottle like it was liquid gold, praising Jake for knowing exactly what he liked. Amy showed up empty-handed with both kids who were sugared up from a birthday party they'd attended earlier. She hugged Dad and announced that her presence was the gift that time with family was more valuable than material things. This from the woman who texted me weekly asking for money for material things. She then spent the party in the corner on her phone, occasionally yelling at her kids to stop running in the house. Tyler didn't even show up. He sent a text an hour after the party started, saying his chakras were misaligned and he needed to spend the day in meditation. Dad just chuckled and said that was Tyler always marching to his own drum. If I had missed his birthday for any reason, I would have never heard the end of it. The extended family members who attended treated me like the help. Aunt Linda handed me her coat when she walked in, assuming I'd hang it up. Uncle Robert asked me to fix him a plate because he was talking to Jake about sports. Cousin Maria complained that the vegetarian option wasn't vegan and acted like I'd personally offended her dietary choices. When it came time for the toast, Dad thanked everyone for coming. He thanked Mum for 50 years of marriage, Jake for always making him laugh, Amy for blessing him with grandchildren, and Tyler for keeping life interesting. He thanked Aunt Linda for the cologne, Uncle Robert for the golf balls, and Cousin Maria for the book about positive thinking. He never mentioned me not once, even though I'd organized everything and was standing right there with my camera documenting his special day for the family album. 3 weeks before the phone call that changed everything, I discovered there had been a secret family meeting. I was scrolling through Instagram when Amy's story popped up. It was a selfie of her at my parents' kitchen table with the caption, "Family Meeting." Jake and Tyler were visible in the background and Mum was pouring coffee. The timestamp showed it was posted while I was at a work conference in Chicago. I'd told them about this conference months in advance. It was a big deal, a chance to network and potentially get the promotion I'd been working toward for 2 years. They'd seemed supportive, or at least indifferent. Now I realized they'd waited until I was gone to gather without me. Jake's Facebook post later that day was cryptic but telling. "Great family meeting today," he wrote. "Some big changes coming that should make the holidays more peaceful." The comments from his friends were all supportive without knowing what he was talking about, but I had a sinking feeling in my stomach. When I called Mum that evening from my hotel room, she sounded strange, guilty almost. I asked if everything was okay, mentioned I'd seen Amy's story about a family meeting. Mum's pause was too long before she answered. "Oh, that was nothing, sweetie. We were just discussing Christmas plans logistics about who's bringing what. Nothing important. Don't worry about it." But I did worry. The way she said nothing important felt like a knife sliding between my ribs. Since when were family meetings about Christmas logistics not important enough to include me, the person who usually cooked everything and paid for most of it? I pressed for more information, but Mum quickly changed the subject to ask about my conference, then suddenly remembered she had something on the stove and hung up. I texted Jake directly. He read it but didn't respond for hours. When he finally did, all he said was, "Don't stress, sis. You'll hear about it soon enough." That casual dismissal, that assumption that I would just accept whatever they'd decided without my input, it stung more than I wanted to admit. Amy was even less helpful. When I asked her about the meeting, she sent back a shrugging emoji and said, "Just family stuff." You were busy with your important conference anyway. The way she italicized important made it clear she thought my career was somehow a betrayal of the family, as if investing in myself was selfish, when that career was what kept her children in daycare. Tyler never responded to my texts at all, which wasn't unusual, but felt more deliberate this time. He'd viewed my message, the read receipt told me that much, but chose to ignore it. The family that consumed $3,200 of my income every month, that relied on me for everything from emergency loans to birthday party planning, had deliberately excluded me from a family meeting while I was trying to advance the career that funded their lives. I tried to push down the hurt and focus on my conference, but it ate at me. During networking events, while other people talked about their families with pride, I felt hollow. My colleague Sarah mentioned how her siblings had surprised her with a spa weekend for her birthday. Another co-worker, James, talked about how his family had a group chat where they shared daily victories and struggles. I had nothing to contribute except the growing realization that I wasn't really part of my family. I was just their financial support system. Thursday evening, 6:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I'd just glanced at the clock on my dashboard, calculating that I'd be home by 7:15 if traffic stayed light. I was mentally planning my evening, maybe a hot bath, definitely a glass of wine, when my phone rang through the car's Bluetooth. Dad's name appeared on the display. I answered with forced cheer, hiding the exhaustion from another brutal day at work. "Hi, Dad, what's up?" His voice was different, cold, formal, like he was reading from a script. "Samantha, I need to tell you something. We had a family meeting. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I know I saw Amy's post. Would have been nice to be included." He continued as if I hadn't spoken. "We've been discussing the family dynamic and how to make everyone more comfortable, especially during the holidays. My exit was coming up, but something in his tone made me want to stay on the highway to delay whatever was coming. "Okay, what about it?" We all agreed. "Diligent. You're not welcome at Christmas this year." The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually gasped, the sound sharp in the confines of my car. The Honda in the next lane honked as I swerved slightly. "I'm sorry, what? You heard me." His voice remained steady, emotionless. "You make everyone uncomfortable with your attitude. You're always acting superior, like you're better than everyone else." My mind was spinning, trying to process what was happening. "Superior, Dad, I don't understand. What are you talking about? Jake feels judged every time you're around. You look at him with disappointment, like he's not living up to your standards." I wanted to scream that Jake hadn't held a job in 3 years, that I'd bought him a car that I paid his insurance. Instead, I heard myself asking, "And Amy? Amy says, you look down on her parenting. You make her feel like a bad mother with your constant suggestions and interference." Interference? I paid for her children's daycare. I bought their school supplies. I was the one who took Mason to the emergency room when he broke his arm because Amy was at a party. And Tyler, Dad, continued ignoring my internal screaming, thinks you resent helping him. He says you throw your money in everyone's faces, making them feel small. I had to exit. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely steer. I pulled into a gas station parking lot and threw the car into park. "Dad, I give you $3,200 a month. I pay your mortgage." That's exactly the attitude we're talking about, Samantha. "You think money makes you better than us." Your mother agrees. "This is what's best for family harmony." Mum agrees. My voice cracked. Mum, who I'd bought a new washing machine for last month, Mum, who called me crying when the power was about to be shut off. "We've made our decision. Christmas is for family, and right now you're not acting like family. Maybe some time apart will help you reflect on your behavior." "Dad, please. Let's talk about this. There must be some misunderstanding." "There's no misunderstanding. The decision is final. We'll see you after the new year, maybe if you can adjust your attitude." The line went dead. He'd hung up on me. My father, who I'd supported financially for 5 years, who I'd sacrificed my relationship with Marcus, for who I'd given up my dreams of California for, had hung up on me like I was a telemarketer. I sat in that gas station parking lot for 10 minutes, staring at my phone, willing it to ring again. Willing him to call back and say it was a joke, a misunderstanding, a mistake. But the phone stayed silent. Finally, with trembling fingers, I called him back. It rang once before going to voicemail. He'd declined my call. I tried Mum next. It rang 4 times before her voicemail picked up. I didn't leave a message. What would I say? I texted her instead. "Mum, please call me. I don't understand what's happening." The message showed as read within seconds, but no response came. Jake was next. He actually answered, but his voice was cautious, guilty. "Hey sis." "Jake, what is going on? Dad just said, I'm not welcome at Christmas." "Look, Samantha, it's complicated. You're intense, always stressed about money and responsibilities. It brings everyone down." "Jake, I pay your car insurance. I bought you that car. See that right there? You always have to mention what you do for everyone. It's exhausting. Maybe this break will be good for everyone." "You're serious? You're really okay with this?" "Sorry, sis. It's for the best. I gotta go." He hung up. My brother, who I'd bailed out of jail twice, who I'd covered rent for when he was between jobs, hung up on me. Amy's response came via text after I'd sent her 3 messages asking her to call me. "Maybe you need to think about your behavior, Samantha. Not everything is about money. Family is about love and acceptance, not keeping score. I wanted to throw my phone out the window. Keeping score. I wasn't keeping score, I was keeping them housed and fed. But I didn't respond. What was the point? Tyler never responded at all. My calls went straight to voicemail, my texts remained unread. The baby of the family whose college tuition I'd paid couldn't even be bothered to acknowledge me. I don't remember driving home. Somehow I made it to my apartment building, parked in my assigned spot, and climbed the 3 flights to my unit. My hands were still shaking as I unlocked the door. The apartment felt different, smaller, somehow lonelier. The silence was deafening. I walked to my living room wall, where I'd hung a collage of family photos. There was one from last Christmas, everyone smiling around the tree I'd bought and decorated. Another from Dad's birthday, him holding that stupid bottle of whiskey from Jake, while my Hamilton watch sat forgotten in its box. Amy's kids at the beach last summer, a trip I'd paid for but couldn't attend because of work. Looking at those photos, something shifted inside me. These people, my blood, my family had gathered secretly to vote me out of Christmas, like I was a contestant on some reality show. They'd decided I made them uncomfortable. Me, the one who'd never missed a birthday, never said no to a request for help, never complained about the thousands of dollars flowing from my account to theirs. I pulled my laptop from my bag and opened my banking app. There they were, all the automatic payments scheduled like clockwork. Mortgage payment to my parents, $1,800 scheduled for the 1st. Electric, water and internet, $350 on the 15th. Transfer to Amy, $800 on the 5th. Jake's car insurance, $250 on the 20th. $3,200 a month, $38,400 a year, money that could have been my house down payment, my retirement fund, my vacation to Italy I'd dreamed about since college. Instead, it went to people who'd just voted me out of the family for making them uncomfortable. I stared at those scheduled payments for a long time. They wanted me gone but expected the money to keep flowing. They'd excluded me from Christmas but not from my financial obligations. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. The audacity was enraging. The pain was overwhelming. But underneath the pain, something else was growing. A cold clarity I'd never felt before. If I wasn't family, if I made them so uncomfortable, they couldn't even bear my presence at Christmas, then why was my money still welcome? Why should I continue to fund the lives of people who'd formally voted me out of their lives? The decision, when it came, felt inevitable. They wanted me gone, fine, but I was taking my support with me. All of it. 2 a.m. I hadn't slept, couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying Dad's words. "You're not welcome at Christmas." The sentence echoed in the darkness of my bedroom, bouncing off the walls like some cruel mantra. I grabbed my phone and started scrolling through old text messages with my family, looking for something, anything that would make sense of what had happened. The pattern became clear as I scrolled. Jake only texted when he needed money. "Can you spot me 500 bro car insurance is due? Sam emergency need cash." The only time he'd said thank you in the past year was when I'd covered his DUI lawyer fees, and even that was just a thumbs up emoji. Amy's messages were manipulative masterpieces. "The kids miss you," followed immediately by requests for money. Sophia asked why Aunt Sam never visits right before asking for school supplies funding. Pictures of the kids looking sad, then mentions of overdue bills. She'd weaponized her children to extract money from my guilt. Mum's texts were subtle but constant. "The washing machine is making that noise again. Your father's back is acting up, might need to see a specialist. The roof is leaking in the guest room." Never direct requests, just problems presented for me to solve, which I always did. I'd become the family's emergency fund, their backup plan, their solution to every problem. Tyler barely communicated, except to send links to his latest business ideas, with messages like, "Just need 10 grand to get started, guaranteed return." He'd borrowed $40,000 over the years for various ventures. A food truck that never materialized, a dropshipping business that lasted 2 weeks, cryptocurrency investments that vanished. Not once had he paid back a cent. The most recent family group chat was about Thanksgiving. I'd asked what everyone was bringing. Jake said he'd try to remember something. Amy said the kids were contribution enough. Tyler sent a meditation emoji. Mum said not to worry about sides, just focus on the turkey. Nobody asked what they could do to help me. I set down my phone and opened my laptop again. The banking website loaded slowly, giving me time to second-guess myself. But then I remembered Marcus's face the day he left the disappointment, when I chose my ungrateful family over our future. I thought about the promotion I'd turned down, because it required travel, and who would help Amy with the kids. I thought about the therapy sessions where Dr. Sir, Martinez gently suggested I was enabling rather than helping. My cursor hovered over the first automatic payment. Parents' mortgage, $1,800 scheduled for 3 days from now. One click and it would be gone. They'd have to figure it out themselves the way adults do. The way I'd had to figure everything out at 16 while they spent money on Jake's football dreams. Click, payment cancelled. A dialog box popped up asking if I was sure. Yes, I was sure. Next, the utilities. $350 that covered their premium cable package so Jake could watch sports all day, high-speed internet for Tyler's failed day trading electricity for the house, where I was no longer welcome. Click. Cancelled. Amy's daycare money. $800 that she claimed was essential, but somehow she always had new nails, fresh highlights, and designer bags from outlet stores. Her ex-husband lived 2 towns over and paid nothing in child support because Amy didn't want to deal with courts, but I was expected to subsidize her choices. Click. Gone. Jake's car insurance. $250 for a car that barely ran, that he barely drove except to bars where he'd drink away money he borrowed from me. Click. Deleted. With each cancellation, I felt something lifting from my shoulders. A weight I'd carried so long I'd forgotten what it felt like to stand straight. $3,200 a month. I did the math again. That was freedom. That was possibility. That was my life returned to me. But I wasn't done. I pulled up a new document and started typing. My fingers flew across the keyboard, years of suppressed thoughts finally finding their voice. Subject regarding Christmas and family support. Dear family, I received Dad's message loud and clear. I'm not welcome at Christmas because I make everyone uncomfortable. You've all agreed that family harmony is better without me. I want you to know I've heard you and I'm responding accordingly. Since I'm not family enough to celebrate Christmas with, I've reconsidered my role as the family's financial support system. Effective immediately, I've cancelled all automatic payments. The December mortgage, utilities, daycare assistance, and insurance are now your responsibility. For 5 years, I've provided $3,200 monthly to support this family. That's $192,000 that could have been my house, my retirement, my future. I gave it freely because I believed family takes care of family. But you've made it clear I'm not family. Jake, the car I bought you, and the insurance I've been paying are now your responsibility. Maybe it's time to use that business degree Mum and Dad paid for while I worked 2 jobs to pay my own tuition. Amy, your daycare bill is due in 4 days. Perhaps it's time to pursue child support from your ex-husband instead of relying on me. Your children deserve support from their actual parent, not just their aunt who makes you uncomfortable. Tyler, I know you believe the universe provides, so I'm sure it will provide for you now. Your chakras should align better without my negative energy affecting your financial situation. Mum and Dad, you refinanced your home twice to bail out your sons. You chose that debt. It's not my responsibility to pay for your choices, especially when I'm not even welcome in that home for Christmas. I wish you all a harmonious Christmas without me. Please don't contact me unless it's a genuine emergency. And by emergency, I mean life or death, not financial inconvenience. The daughter and sister you voted off the island, Samantha. I read it 3 times, my finger hovering over the send button. Once I sent this, there was no going back. But then again, there was already no going back. They'd uninvited me from Christmas. They'd chosen their comfort over my presence. They'd made their decision thinking I'd continue to pay for their lives while accepting my exile. I looked at the clock, 3:47 a.m. In a few hours, they'd all be waking up to start their Friday. Jake would sleep until noon, then wonder why there wasn't money in his account for beer. Amy would get the daycare notice that payment was due. Mum would check the bank account and see the mortgage payment hadn't arrived. I scheduled the email for 6 a.m. when I knew Mum would be making coffee and checking her tablet. Then I turned off my phone completely, something I hadn't done in years. For the first time in 5 years, I wasn't available for their emergencies, their problems, their needs. I finally fell asleep around 4:30, and for once, I didn't dream about bills and obligations and family guilt. I dreamed about Marcus in California, about the life I could have had, about the promotion I'd turned down, about freedom. I woke at 10 a.m. to sunlight streaming through my bedroom window. For a moment, I forgot what I'd done. Then it all came rushing back. The phone call, the cancellations, the email, my stomach clenched with anxiety and anticipation. I'd actually done it. I'd cut them off. My phone had been off for 6 hours. When I powered it on, it exploded with notifications. 47 missed calls, 89 text messages, 12 voicemails. The family group chat had over 200 messages. My individual message threads were disasters of capitalized texts and exclamation points. Jake's messages started at 6:23 a.m. What the hell, Samantha? My insurance just got cancelled. They're saying non-payment. This is illegal. You can't just stop paying without notice. Call me now. The messages devolved from there into cursing and threats about ruining my credit, which made no sense since the accounts were all in his name. Amy started at 7 when the daycare had called her about the missing payment. How could you do this to your nieces? They'll kick out Sophia and Mason. You're punishing innocent children. This is child abuse. I'm calling CPS on you. The irony of her threatening to call Child Protective Services on me for not paying for her children was lost on her. Tyler had sent a series of philosophical texts about karma and energy and how my negativity would return to me threefold. Then he'd asked if I could at least Venmo him $50 for gas because he had a job interview. Even in crisis, he couldn't resist asking for money. Mum's voicemail was the hardest to hear. She was crying, actually sobbing, saying the mortgage company had called about the missing payment. Samantha, sweetie, please. We're going to lose the house. Your father is having chest pains from the stress. How could you do this to us? We're your parents. But it was Dad's single text that revealed everything. Your tantrum won't work. You'll cave by Monday and pay everything. You always do. Stop being dramatic. They still thought this was a manipulation. They thought I was throwing a fit that would blow over. They'd excluded me from Christmas, expecting I'd beg to be included while still paying their bills. They'd miscalculated catastrophically. At noon, Dad appeared at my workplace. I saw him through the glass doors of our office, arguing with security. His face was red, his arms waving wildly. I walked to the lobby, staying behind the security desk. You're destroying this family, he shouted the moment he saw me. I thought I wasn't family, I replied calmly. That's different. You have responsibilities to people who voted me out of Christmas, to people who think I make them uncomfortable. His face got redder. The bills are due in 3 days. The mortgage, the utilities, everything. Then you have 3 days to figure it out. Maybe ask Jake to contribute. He's 32 years old. Jake doesn't have a job. You know that. And whose fault is that? He's been unemployed for 3 years. Dad, 3 years of playing video games in your basement while I paid for everything. Your mother is crying. He played his trump card. She hasn't stopped crying since your email. Her blood pressure is through the roof. Maybe she should have thought about that before agreeing. I wasn't welcome at Christmas. Amy can't afford daycare. She'll lose her job. Amy can file for child support from her ex-husband. She chose not to because it's easier to take money from me. Security stepped forward as Dad's voice rose higher. Sir, I need you to leave now. This isn't over, Samantha. Dad pointed at me. You're going to regret this. We're your family. No, I said quietly. You made it clear I'm not. I'm just your ATM. And this ATM is now closed. Security escorted him out while he continued shouting about family duty and responsibility. My co-workers stared and I heard whispers. I held my head high and walked back to my desk. My supervisor, Janet, approached me quietly. Are you okay? Do you need to leave early? Actually, I'm better than I've been in years. But thank you. The afternoon brought more messages. Amy had created a GoFundMe titled Help a Single Mum Keep Her Kids in Daycare, with a sob story about how her evil sister had abandoned her. She'd raised $30 from her friends. Jake had posted on Facebook that I was having a mental breakdown and needed prayers. Tyler DM'd me on Instagram saying he understood my spiritual journey, but could I journey my way to PayPal him some cash? The extended family started chiming in. Aunt Linda called me selfish. Uncle Robert said I should be ashamed. Cousin Maria posted that family helps family no matter what. None of them offered to help pay the bills themselves, of course. They just wanted me to resume my role as the family bank. By evening, Mum had tried a different approach. She sent a long text about how Grandma would be so disappointed in me, how she'd raised me better than this, how I was breaking her heart from heaven. Using my dead grandmother to manipulate me was a new low even for them. I didn't respond to any of it. Instead, I went to the grocery store and bought myself a nice steak, a bottle of good wine, and fresh flowers. For the first time in years, I was shopping just for me, buying what I wanted, without calculating how much I needed to save for family emergencies. That night, I cooked myself a proper dinner. I set my small table with my best dishes, lit a candle, and poured a generous glass of wine. I'd spent years eating cheap ramen and sandwiches to save money for them. This steak, this moment of peace, this was what freedom tasted like. The first week without my family was strange but liberating. With $3,200 suddenly available, I did things I'd dreamed about for years. I booked a spa weekend at a resort 2 hours away, something I'd seen on social media but never imagined I could afford. The massage therapist commented on how tense my shoulders were. Years of carrying everyone else's burdens literally stored in my muscles. I bought new clothes not from discount stores or clearance racks, but actual new clothes that fit properly and made me feel confident. I got my hair professionally colored for the first time in 3 years, covering the premature grey that stress had gifted me. The stylist talked about self-care and asked about my holiday plans. I told her I was doing Christmas solo, and she said, "Good for you, honey. Sometimes you need to choose yourself." My apartment got attention too. I bought throw pillows, nice sheets, artwork for my bare walls. Small things that made it feel like a home instead of just a place to sleep between work shifts. I signed up for a gym membership at the nice gym, not the cheap one with broken equipment I'd been using. I joined a book club that met at a wine bar on Wednesdays. Sarah from work invited me to lunch, something I'd always declined before because I brought sandwiches to save money. We went to a Thai place downtown and talked about the promotion coming up in January. She mentioned she'd noticed I seemed different lately, lighter somehow. I told her I'd cut some toxic people out of my life, and she raised her glass in a toast to healthy boundaries. I reconnected with college friends I'd lost touch with. Emma lived just across town, but I'd always been too busy with family obligations to see her. We met for coffee that turned into a 4-hour conversation. She told me she'd wondered what happened to me, how I'd just disappeared into my family's needs. She said Marcus still asked about me sometimes when mutual friends mentioned my name. The gym became my new morning routine. Instead of waking up to anxiety about family finances, I woke up to endorphins and accomplishment. I met people there, normal people with normal family relationships, who didn't treat relatives like personal banks. A guy named Daniel asked me to grab smoothies after spin class. I said yes, something I wouldn't have done before. Because dates cost money I needed for Amy's daycare. Meanwhile, the family harassment continued but evolved. Jake had gotten creative sending me invoices for emotional damages caused by my financial abandonment. Amy posted daily on social media about how hard single motherhood was when family betrays you always, with photos of her kids looking sad. Tyler sent me links to articles about forgiveness and healing family wounds. Mum left voicemails crying about losing the house, though I noticed they'd somehow found money for Jake's new gaming console based on his Instagram stories. December 23rd arrived faster than expected. I decorated my apartment with a small tree, white lights and ornaments I picked myself. I'd bought presents for myself and wrapped them something that felt both silly and empowering. I'd planned a Christmas menu for one with foods I actually liked, not what everyone else demanded. My phone had been quiet for 2 days, which should have been suspicious. The family had stopped their daily bombardment of guilt and manipulation. I assumed they'd finally accepted the situation or found other solutions. I was wrong. Christmas Eve afternoon, I was preparing my solo feast when Tyler called. I almost didn't answer, but something in my gut said this was different. His voice was quiet, serious, completely unlike his usual spacey demeanor. "Sam, I need to tell you something." "What is it, Tyler? Are you okay?" "I'm fine, but you deserve to know the truth. The family meeting when they voted you out of Christmas, it wasn't about your attitude." My hand stilled on the potato I was peeling. "What do you mean Jake owes money to some bad people? Like really bad people. $20,000 from gambling on football games. He borrowed from a loan shark when the banks cut him off." I sank onto my kitchen stool. "What, he convinced Mum and Dad that if they excluded you from Christmas, you'd panic and cave. You'd not only reinstate the payments, but probably give more money to get back in their good graces. It was all calculated." My mind was spinning. And Amy, she was in on it from the start. She wanted to increase her monthly amount to $1,500. She figured if you were desperate enough to be included again, you'd agree to anything. She actually suggested the whole uncomfortable thing, said you'd believe it, because you always worried about not fitting in. Tears stung my eyes, not from sadness, but from rage. And Mum and Dad. They went along with it. Jake promised them you'd cover his debt if they played their parts right. Dad was supposed to be cold and dismissive. Mum was supposed to cry. They rehearsed it, Sam. They literally rehearsed how to hurt you. Why are you telling me this? Because it's wrong. I might be a screw-up, but I'm not cruel. And because they're planning to show up at your apartment tomorrow, Christmas Day, with the whole family. They're going to ambush you with tears and apologies and expect you to fold when you see the kids on Christmas morning. Amy's been coaching them on what to say to make you feel guilty. I was shaking now, but my voice was steady. "Thank you for telling me, Tyler. Sam, I'm sorry. I should have warned you sooner." I kept thinking they'd realize how messed up this was and stop, but they're doubling down. Dad even said if this doesn't work, they'll threaten to sue you for abandonment or something. They can't sue me for not giving them money. I know, but they figure the threat might work. Sam, get out of town for Christmas. Don't be there when they show up. After Tyler hung up, I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by half-prepared food, and tried to process what I'd learned. My family hadn't just voted me out of Christmas, they'd orchestrated a manipulation designed to extract more money from me. They'd rehearsed their cruelty. They'd weaponized my love for them. I looked at my little Christmas tree, at the presents I'd wrapped for myself, at the life I was building without them, and I made a decision. I wouldn't run. This was my home, my life, my Christmas. But I also wouldn't be their victim anymore. I called the building's security desk and informed them I was expecting unwanted visitors tomorrow, and under no circumstances should they be allowed up. I deadbolted my door and put a chair against it for good measure. Then I turned off my phone, poured myself a glass of wine, and continued cooking my Christmas dinner. Christmas Day came quietly. I woke early, made myself coffee in my new French press, and sat by my window watching the sunrise. The city was still and peaceful, covered in a light dust of snow. I opened my presents to myself, a cashmere scarf, a first edition of my favorite book, expensive coffee beans. Things that brought me joy without guilt. At 10 a.m., the building security called my intercom. Miss, there's a family here claiming to be yours. They're quite insistent about coming up. They're not welcome. Please ask them to leave. If they won't go, call the police. I heard commotion in the background. Dad's voice yelling about parental rights, Amy shrieking about child abuse, Mum wailing about Christmas being ruined. They're refusing to leave, miss. Should I call the authorities? Yes, please do. 20 minutes later, security called again to confirm the police had removed them from the property and issued trespassing warnings. They wouldn't be able to return without facing arrest. I thanked him and returned to my peaceful Christmas. I made myself a perfect dinner. Prime rib cooked exactly how I liked it. Roasted vegetables that Jake would have complained about, a chocolate tart that no one else would eat half of before I got a slice. I set a proper table with candles and china and ate in peace, savouring every bite. That evening, I video called Emma and other friends who'd become my chosen family. We laughed about holiday disasters, shared our meals through screens, and made plans for New Year's Eve that didn't involve guilt or manipulation or financial exploitation. At 10 p.m, I briefly turned on my phone to check for emergencies. 200 new messages. I deleted them all unread, except for one from Tyler. They came back to Mum and Dad's in a police car. Never seen Dad so mad. Jake punched a wall. Amy told the kids you hate them. Mum took to her bed. They're now trying to figure out how to pay January's bills. Dad's talking about selling his truck. Jake might actually have to get a job. Amy's calling her ex about child support. It's chaos, but you were right to leave. Merry Christmas, Sam. You deserve peace. I turned the phone back off and made myself hot chocolate with real whipped cream. I sat by my little tree watching the lights twinkle, feeling something I hadn't felt in years, peace. Complete, absolute peace. The week between Christmas and New Year's was typically when I'd be calculating how to cover everyone's January bills while they recovered from holiday spending. Instead, I was calculating something different, the compound interest on my new investment account. $3,200 a month properly invested would be worth over $1 million by the time I retired. $1 million that had been flowing into the black hole of my family's irresponsibility. Tyler called again on December 27th. He was the only family member I'd kept unblocked. Partly because he'd warned me, partly because someone needed to be able to reach me in a genuine emergency. Sam, I got a job. I nearly dropped my coffee. Excuse me, I know, shocking. But watching everything implode made me realize something. I've been a leech. We all have. The vitamin shop downtown needed help and I applied. Starting January 2nd. That's great, Tyler. I'm proud of you. Dad had to sell his truck. That fancy Ford he loved. Got $10,000 for it, which went straight to Jake's bookie. Jake's washing dishes at Denny's now night shift. He had to take the bus to his first shift. I've never seen him so humiliated. I felt a twinge of something, not quite sympathy, but not quite satisfaction either. And Amy, she filed for child support finally. Her ex is furious, but the state doesn't care. She'll get $900 a month once it processes. She's also taking extra shifts at the grocery store. Mum's watching the kids, which is not going well. Sophia told her she hates her mac and cheese, only Aunt Sam makes it right. That did make me smile a little. Those kids weren't responsible for their parents' choices. How are Mum and Dad managing Mum selling her jewellery, the stuff Grandma left her? Dad's picking up handyman work around town. They're 68 and 70 Sam. Watching them struggle is hard, but they did this to themselves. They chose Jake's gambling debt over their daughter. Yes, they did. Tyler paused. Do you think you'll ever forgive them? I don't know. Trust is like a vase, Tyler. Once it's shattered, even if you glue it back together, you'll always see the cracks. They didn't just exclude me from Christmas, they conspired to manipulate me. They rehearsed hurting me. How do you come back from that? New Year's Eve arrived with an invitation from Emma to a house party. I wore my new dress, did my makeup carefully, and arrived with a bottle of good champagne. The party was full of successful adjusted adults who talked about travel plans and career goals, not family drama and financial manipulation. Daniel from the gym was there. We talked until 3 a.m. about books and movies and our favorite restaurants. He asked me to dinner the following weekend. When he smiled, it reminded me of Marcus, but also of new possibilities of a life where relationships weren't transactional. January brought the promotion I'd been working toward. With my newfound confidence and lack of family drama draining my energy, I'd nailed the presentation. The raise was substantial, $20,000 a year, money that was now entirely mine. Janet, my supervisor, mentioned she'd noticed my transformation. You used to seem so stressed, always checking your phone, always worried. Now you're focused present. Whatever you did, keep doing it. February was when the real consequences hit my family. Jake's minimum wage job didn't cover his court-mandated payments to the loan shark. He'd had to move back in with our parents, officially taking over the basement entirely. No more pretense of looking for better work. He was stuck in the cycle of poverty that I'd protected him from for years. Amy's child support hadn't kicked in yet, due to bureaucratic delays. She'd had to pull the kids from the good daycare and put them in a cheaper one that Sophia hated. The guilt trip photos continued on social media, but the comments had shifted. People were asking why the father wasn't helping, why she was relying on her sister instead of the children's parent. Mum and Dad were the saddest transformation. They'd refinanced again, taking what little equity remained to cover basic bills. At their age, they'd never pay it off. They'd work until they died, all because they'd chosen to enable Jake, instead of maintaining a relationship with the daughter who'd supported them. March brought unexpected contact. Marcus reached out through LinkedIn. He'd heard through mutual friends about my family situation and my promotion. His message was simple. I'm proud of you for choosing yourself. It took strength I always knew you had. If you're ever in San Francisco, coffee's on me. I stared at that message for an hour. The life I could have had with Marcus was gone, a casualty of my codependency. But the life I was building now was mine, entirely mine. I responded, "Thank you. I'm finally free. Coffee sounds good if I make it out there." He replied immediately, "I'm glad you're free. You deserve to be." Tyler visited for my birthday in April. He was different, more mature, more grounded. The job had given him structure and purpose. He'd been sober for 3 months and was seeing a therapist. "I brought you something," he said, handing me a wrapped box. Inside was a framed photo I'd never seen before. It was from my college graduation, just me in my cap and gown, smiling genuinely. No family members in the frame, just me celebrating my achievement. I found this in Mom's albums. Thought you should have it. A reminder of who you were before you became everyone's bank. That's the sister I remember, the one who had dreams. I hugged him, then the first family contact I'd had in months that didn't feel toxic. How is everyone, I asked, surprising myself by caring? Surviving. Jake's still washing dishes. Amy's ex finally started paying support, but it's not enough. Mum and Dad are exhausted. They look 10 years older. They talk about you sometimes when they think I'm not listening. What do they say? Dad wonders if you were right all along. Mum cries about missing you, but they're too proud to apologize, especially knowing what they did. Jake still blames you for everything. Amy tells everyone you abandoned family in need. The narrative helps them sleep at night, I guess. I went to therapy twice that month, working through the complicated grief of losing a family that was never really mine to begin with. Dr. Martinez helped me understand that I wasn't grieving the family I'd lost, but the family I'd never had, the one that would have valued me for more than my bank account. May brought another surprise. Amy showed up at my office, kids in tow. Security called me before letting her up. I met them in the lobby, maintaining my boundaries. Sophia ran to me immediately. "Aunt Sam, I missed you so much." I hugged her tightly, then Mason. They weren't responsible for their mother's choices. Amy stood awkwardly, clearly exhausted, wearing clothes I recognized from 3 years ago. "Can we talk?" she asked. "You can talk. I'll listen. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. We were horrible to you. I was horrible. I let greed and jealousy poison everything. You were the only one who actually helped, and we punished you for it. Why now, Amy? Why apologize now? Because my kids cry for you. Because I see other families where siblings actually support each other emotionally, not just financially. Because I'm working 3 jobs now and I finally understand how hard you worked for us. Because Tyler told me the truth about how much you gave up for us, Marcus, California, your dreams. I looked at her, really looked. She seemed genuine, but I'd learnt that seeming and being were different things. I appreciate the apology, Amy, but I can't go back to how things were. I won't be the family bank again. I'm not asking for money, I'm asking for forgiveness. And maybe someday a relationship with boundaries. The kids miss their aunt. The real aunt, not the ATM. I'll think about it. But Amy, this would have to be completely different. No money, no guilt trips, no manipulation. She nodded, tears falling. I understand. I'm going to therapy now, working on my codependency issues. Turns out we all have them, just in different ways. I watched them leave Sophia waving until the elevator doors closed. Maybe someday there could be something new with Amy and the kids. But not now. Not yet. June marked 6 months since the Christmas exile. I'd saved $20,000, taken a solo vacation to Costa Rica, started dating Daniel seriously, and felt more myself than I had in a decade. The family group chat had been archived, the photos tucked away in a box, the obligations dissolved into freedom. One evening, I was cooking dinner with Daniel when my phone rang. Dad. I'd unblocked him after Amy's visit, though we hadn't spoken. Daniel looked at me questioningly. I let it go to voicemail. Later alone, I listened to the message. Samantha, it's Dad. I know you probably won't listen to this, but I need to say it. I was wrong. We were wrong. We chose money over our daughter, manipulation over love. Your mother wants me to tell you she's sorry, so sorry. We're getting by, don't worry about us. We made our choices, but I wanted you to know that I lie awake at night thinking about that phone call, about telling you that you weren't welcome at Christmas. It's the worst thing I've ever done. You were the best of us, and we threw you away for money that was never ours to expect. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know. We love you. We've always loved you. We just forgot to show it. I saved the voicemail but didn't respond. Some wounds were too deep for simple apologies. Some bridges once burned couldn't be rebuilt with words alone. A full year had passed since that horrible December phone call. I stood in my new condo boxes, scattered around sunlight streaming through windows that were actually mine. The down payment had come from the money I'd saved by not supporting my family. The mortgage was less than what I'd been paying for their lives. Daniel helped me hang pictures, including the graduation photo Tyler had given me. We'd been together 8 months now, taking things slow but steady. He knew my family history, had held me through the complicated grief, and never once suggested I should reconcile for the sake of family harmony. My promotion had led to another opportunity, heading a new division with a team under me. I was good at my job when I wasn't exhausted from managing everyone else's life. My salary had increased by 40% in a year. The money I'd once handed over without question was now building my retirement, my emergency fund, my future. Tyler came for Thanksgiving. He'd been sober a full year, had kept his job, gotten promoted to assistant manager, and started community college. He was the only family member I maintained regular contact with, and even that had careful boundaries. While we cooked together, he updated me on the family. Jake had gotten a second job, but was still paying off the loan shark. He'd be in debt for years. Amy was working full-time now, juggling childcare with Mum's help. She'd started dating a decent guy who understood her situation. Mum and Dad had downsized, selling the family home to move into a small apartment. The house where I wasn't welcome for Christmas was now someone else's home. Do you think you'll ever talk to them again? Tyler asked, while chopping vegetables. I don't know. Trust isn't just broken, Tyler. They strategized my pain. They literally planned how to hurt me for financial gain. How do you forgive that? Maybe you don't. Maybe you just find peace with it. I looked at him, my baby brother who'd found his way. Maybe that's enough. Christmas approached again, the anniversary of my liberation. Emma organized a group dinner for those without traditional family plans. Daniel would be there along with 6 other friends who'd become my chosen family. We'd reserved a private room at a nice restaurant, planned a gift exchange, and everyone was genuinely excited. December 23rd, exactly 1 year after Tyler's warning call, my phone rang. Mom, I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Her voice was older, tired. Samantha, Mum, I won't keep you. I just wanted to say Merry Christmas, and to tell you that I understand. We broke something that can't be fixed. We chose money over love, manipulation over truth. I see you bought a condo, Tyler mentioned it. I'm glad. You deserve a home where you're valued. Thank you, Mom. I love you, Samantha. I've loved you wrong and badly, but I've loved you. I hope someday you can remember the good times before we poisoned everything with greed. I remember teaching you to ride a bike. I remember you reading to Amy. I remember you helping Tyler with homework. I remember the daughter who gave everything and asked for nothing in return. I remember Mum. She was crying now. That's all I wanted to know. That somewhere in all this mess there was something real. There was, but it wasn't enough to build a life on. I know. Merry Christmas, Samantha. Be happy. The line went dead. I sat with the phone in my hand, waiting for tears that didn't come. Instead, I felt a strange peace. We'd said what needed saying. The door wasn't open, but it wasn't slammed either. It was simply closed gently, finally. Christmas Eve. I stood in my condo, surrounded by friends who'd become family. Daniel raised a toast to second chances and chosen families. Emma hugged me tight and whispered that she was proud of me. Tyler, the only biological family present, smiled from across the room, raising his glass of sparkling cider in silent acknowledgement of how far we'd both come. Someone asked about New Year's resolutions. Mine was simple: to stop apologizing for taking up space in my own life, to stop shrinking so others could expand, to stop paying for love that should have been free. As midnight approached on Christmas Eve, exactly 1 year since I'd spent the holiday alone but not lonely, I thought about my family. They were probably together, struggling but surviving. Jake washing dishes, Amy juggling kids, and work mum and dad in their small apartment, Tyler here with me. We'd all ended up exactly where our choices had led us. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. Sam, it's Jake. I know you hate me. I hate me too sometimes. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I'm working 2 jobs now, paying my debts, trying to be better. You were right about everything. I was a parasite. We all were. I hope you're happy. You deserve it. Merry Christmas. I didn't respond, but I didn't delete it either. Maybe someday, years from now, we'd find our way to some kind of relationship. Or maybe we wouldn't. Either way, I was free. Looking around my home, my real home filled with people who valued me for who I was, not what I could provide, I realized something profound. That phone call from Dad telling me I wasn't welcome at Christmas had been the cruelest gift and the greatest blessing. It had shattered my chains disguised as family obligations. I'd spent $3,200 a month to purchase love that should have been free. I'd sacrificed my dreams, my relationship, my future for people who gathered secretly to vote me out of their lives. But in losing them, I'd found myself. In being exiled from their Christmas, I'd discovered my own. The money I'd saved had bought me more than a condo. It had purchased my freedom, my self-respect, my future. It had taught me that family isn't about blood or obligation or guilt. Family is about mutual respect, genuine care and love that doesn't come with a price tag. As friends laughed around me, as Daniel squeezed my hand as Tyler helped serve dessert he'd made himself, I understood the real lesson of that terrible December phone call. Sometimes the best gift your family can give you is showing you exactly who they are, so you can finally stop paying for the privilege of being used. My dad had said I wasn't welcome at Christmas, expecting silence and submission. Instead, I'd cancelled every auto-pay and let the statements do the talking. Those statements said more than words ever could. They said I matter. They said I have worth beyond my bank account. They said I deserve love that doesn't require monthly payments. And in the end, that was the most expensive and most valuable lesson of my life. Family isn't about blood. Home isn't where you're tolerated. Love isn't something you purchase with monthly transfers. Sometimes the greatest act of love for yourself and even for them is walking away and letting everyone learn to stand on their own. The clock struck midnight. Christmas Day began. And for the first time in my adult life, I was exactly where I belonged, with people who wanted me there. Not my money, not my sacrifices, just me. That was worth more than $3,200 a month. That was worth everything. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt trapped by family obligations or struggled with setting boundaries, you're not alone. What would you do if your family chose money over your presence? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about finding strength in the hardest moments. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. Sometimes knowing you're not alone in these struggles makes all the difference. Wishing you all the peace and freedom you deserve this holiday season.